doesn't care about you. That's why you need a medical emergency kit. It contains life-saving medications like ivermectin, Z-Pak, and antibiotics. Stock them before they block them.
In the military, that Pakistan can become the next target. Absolutely no concern. It's because there's a sea of difference between these two countries and Pakistan. We are an established and declared nuclear power. And the world has no experience of going to or even attempting to go into a misadventure against an established nuclear power. And if such a misadventure is taken or attempted to, then it will lead to horrific consequences which the world may not be able to endure. Hence, I have said it before, I will say it again very clearly, that seeking military space for conflict with an established nuclear power for elusive objectives is absurd, sheer stupidity, and inconceivable.
And the way his office was run, I think he had 2 chiefs of staff, but it was a very low energy presidency.
He was a low energy president. And I think that's actually harder on the staff than what I have. They were pushing, I'm pulling. They could not have been more kind to me as we were transitioning. Really wonderful at telling us what to expect, what resources were at our fingertips. They were terrific. The presidency, not so much, but the individuals that I worked with and I knew were spectacular. And I actually call on them from time to time now.
That's really nice to hear, that they were so generous and bipartisan. Yeah. It's not what you think.
No.
Not
what I expected, but it was
Not with that picture, and not without Eric Carilla down there at the end of the table. Not with that.
And, thank you. Absolute thanks and gratitude and admiration for CENTCOM, for the U.S. military, for the Secretary of Defense, and the President of the United States. Magnificent. You have the gratitude of the people of Israel and the state of Israel, and I think of many, many others around the world. So, first thing, thank you.
Well, thank you. And I appreciate, there's a reason I pointed at Eric, and I know you recognize him too, because the skill and the bravery and the courage of U.S. forces involved in that operation, including in the defense of Israel, whether it was in the Mediterranean or with THAAD batteries or others, was incredible. And so CENTCOM played he did it in his own quiet way, but just incredibly effective. And so it was an honor to be a part of it. And after 60 days of negotiation, President Trump was very clear. After 60 days, he gave them every opportunity, and then Operation Rising Lion took place. And the skill of your professionals, what was accomplished, was absolutely incredible.
Can you send more weapons to Ukraine?
We're going to send some more weapons. We have to. They have to be able to defend themselves. They're getting hit very hard now. They're getting hit very hard. We're going to have to send more weapons. Yeah, defensive weapons primarily, but they're getting hit very, very hard.
Welcome back to the SCIF. Glad to have you this morning. A lot going on continually. Every day, it's a busy day every day at CDM. We've been up all night, literally, working on getting you the news, curating the news, getting you what you really need to know so you're the smartest in the room. That's what we do at the SCIF. Thank you for the crew. They're already active in the chat big time this morning. I get to see all the chats from X, from Gettr, from Rumble. It's just a stream coming through. Sometimes if you're only on one channel, you may not see it all, but it's a lot. And we really appreciate the engagement. It's fantastic. Please check out whatfinger.com, one of our partners. We just mention them every day in the show because it's a great aggregation site and a great place for you to add to your daily scan after you go to cdm.press, of course. Put us in your daily scan morning, noon, and night. We need the traffic. It's always updated all day long from news all around the world and we drill down to the local level in the states, and that's really important. Today, I'm going to talk about anger and lies. MAGA is angry. We're angry over the Epstein lies, and we're very angry over the war lies. Yes, there's a lot of good stuff happening, but some of the big things we're being lied to again about. I mean, that's just simple. You saw Susie Wiles, the chief of staff in the Oval Office, cooing about the Biden administration. I mean, that was just weird, just bizarre. Kind of shows you where her priorities are. It's not to stop the wars. It's not to stop the mRNA vax. It's not to release the Epstein files. Some of the other stuff is great, the immigration, the law and order, but we're being lied to simply on those major issues. And we're upset about it. I'm going to talk about that today, especially sending more weapons to Ukraine. I find it gross, disgusting, and dangerous and existential for our military members who are in uniform overseas on the ground. I just find it disgusting. We're going to have David Cross on this morning to talk about finances, financial issues. He did a great hit on Caravan to Midnight last night on the stink coming out of the Georgia GOP and the convention. So please check that out if you want to know what's going on. It's an hour and a half, but it's a really good interview with John B. Wells on Caravan to Midnight last night. You can find it on Rumble, or he's on a lot of channels as well. We're also going to have an interview with Scott Schara. He is the father whose young 19-year-old daughter was killed in the hospital, and he made it all the way to trial. He's the only one that has made it to trial and had a trial over hospital wrongful death in the death of his daughter, and their protocols, their standards of care. And he goes into that in depth, and it's something you really need to see. He didn't win the trial, but for a lot of reasons, but it got airtime. I mean, and that's what we're going to help do, is give airtime. So watch that. That's going to be good. That's going to be in the second hour. Today is, what is today? The 10th? Yeah, today is July 10th. I'm your host, L Todd Wood. This is the mission brief. America can't defend its own skies, but Ukraine gets more Patriots, and a lot of other people around the world. And the military is trying to backtrack and say, well, yeah, we do have enough, but there's reports that it's down to 25% of our levels needed, and we can't defend ourselves, especially if we get in a major war with near peer adversaries. Or I wrote this morning, what if they start launching drones across the southern border? The cartels, the CCP combined with the cartels. How do we defend ourselves? We can't. We have no weapons. We've sent them all to Ukraine, and same with artillery shells. So this is existential threat. I like the Ukrainians. As I mentioned, I had a Ukrainian refugee family in my house for almost a year, but I love the USA more, and I want our country protected. Gavin Newsom, you remember all the Palisades fires, and we're going to let you rebuild fast. Well, less than 100 homes have been issued permits to be rebuilt, and now Gavin is funding multi-family housing. Surprise, surprise, surprise. Seed oil death. We're going to talk about that, and another Iran attack is coming. That's just a given. And will Trump take over D.C. With the federal government? All of this and more we're going to talk about. Stay with us. David Cross will be here in a second, and we'll dig into everything. Stay with us on the SCIF, where you'll be the smartest guy in the room. Stand by.
watching my friends gain more and more weight. And then eventually, I got to tell you, this is a little dark, but bad diet literally killed my whole crew.
Wow.
Diabetes, a stroke. I mean, all kinds of stuff. It's like, you had a stroke? You're not even 50 years old. You guys got to quit eating this stuff. Your body knows what's what. You're not conscious of this. But that's why people will go to the refrigerator and they'll grab this and that and the other and put together this outrageously elaborate combination of foods. Your body's trying to reach balance. Unbeknownst to us, our bodies are always trying to reach homeostasis. You can't eat all of this stuff and expect to live a long time. And one thing led to another, and I went, forget this. We're going to make our own product. So we partnered with one of the world's top 3 biochemists where nutrition specific study is concerned. I said, all I want is the best nutritional and immune support product in the world. So we mixed it in yogurt. It's a powder. I got a bag of it here. I keep one on the console all the time, just so I can show people.
Yeah.
And it's a powder. Now, this is not candy. This is hardcore nutrition. And sugar is an enemy. And most people do not know that the reason these bellies are showing up on people all over the place, your body makes fat to store the toxins it can't get rid of. So it just puts them over here. But I can tell you this, you take this for 30 days and then lay off of it for 2 or 3 days, and you'll go, good grief, give me some more. Skin, nails, hair growing back. Cut yourself and it heals in half the time.
I'm David Cross, and you may know me from my election integrity work, but I also own U.S. Asset Management, an investment advisory practice. I've been an advisor for nearly 30 years, and one of the questions I get asked most frequently is, do I have enough money relative to other people my age? And while that's an interesting question, it's also the wrong question. The right question is do you have enough money to sustain your lifestyle for the rest of your life? This is a question you should know the answer to. This is what we do. Check us out at us-am.com and look for our big proud American Eagle logo.
We're slogging over Africa. Slogging over Africa. Boot, moving up and down again. There's no discharge in the war. 7, 6, 11.
Welcome back to the SCIF. Please go to mypillow.com and check out everything Mike has to offer. I need a new pair of slippers. They've been sold out for the last few days, but I'm waiting for those to come back. My wife laughs at me. Mine are falling apart. I love them so much. But check out the slippers. I know you probably have, a lot of you have kids going back to college. They need sheets, towels, bedding, everything that a normal apartment would need. So check that out at MyPillow. Spend some time on the website and use promo code CDM to get the best discounts with Mike. He's got over 600 products. Check out the clothing and everything. And I've got some construction outside this location, so please disregard the beeping as the dump truck backs up to drop off the fill dirt. Apologize for that. But go to mypillow.com, check it out, use promo code CDM and get the best discounts. Thank you for that. Now, let's talk about some stories. Let's dig into it. It's obvious. Let me bring up this one slide. Stand by 1 second. Share my screen. Here we go. So, I have to delete something else. Hold on 1 second. Okay, there we go. Here we go. It's obvious the U.S. doesn't have enough to defend its airspace, but we are sending more Patriots to Ukraine. Now, we go in depth. There's a great article on, I forget the name of the entity. It is, I'll tell you real quick. It is TWZ, tapped around the issue a little bit, talking about the U.S. is essentially down to 25% of its Patriot force, missile force needed to defend the U.S. military, either overseas or our own targets here in the U.S. Pentagon is pushing back on a published report claiming the U.S. only has 25% of the Patriot interceptors it needs. Meanwhile, officials in Kiev are pleading for new interceptors because they're getting pummeled by Russian airstrikes. The stockpile of Patriot missiles has fallen so low that it raises concern inside the Pentagon that it could jeopardize U.S. potential military operations. The combination of increased attacks and diminished supply of air defense assets is having a cascading effect. The Army only has money allocated to build 233 of them this year. And guess how many the Russians are building a month? 5,000. They launched 700 plus drones into Ukraine last week, and they did several hundred last night. This is becoming an air war, attrition air war of air defense versus drones, and we're sending all of ours to Ukraine. Why is that? We can't win in Ukraine unless we commit the entire NATO force, which I'm sure some want to do, to keep this massive European land war going and trying to get it bigger into World War III is what the cabal wants. But we don't want that, and we're calling out even the Trump administration. And I write in here, what happens when the cartels start launching drones into the U.S. or a near-peer adversary from submarines or ships? What happens when American troops come under fire overseas? Our forces deserve better. They deserve honest leadership who can protect them. This is an existential threat for America. Those saying we are fine and have enough to send more Patriots to Ukraine are lying. I got tired of the lies under Biden. Now I'm tired of the lies under Trump. So I'm angry about this. And I played in the cold open the interchange between President Trump, Secretary of Defense Hegseth, and CIA Director Radcliffe. I mean, if that is not pointing out exactly what is going on here, where part of the U.S. government want to take care of Ukraine and other countries, and part of the U.S. government were elected to take care of America, America first. What we're seeing now is not America first. Now, I want to bring this up. This is a really interesting article that's going on, or situation that's going on in Florida and California. Kat Stansel is a fantastic writer, and she's been writing about forced zoning changes in Florida and California after the fires in Palisade, et cetera, and the rebuilding of multifamily housing in those areas. I mean, it looks very like a depopulation destruction agenda in Lahaina, in California, in North Carolina, in Texas, where you take these parts of the country which are populated by people in areas where they want people removed, and they start massive fires or manipulate the weather to destroy certain areas. We think that happened in North Carolina for sure. We spent a lot of time on the ground there. But Gavin Newsom has approved less than 100 houses in Palisades. There were thousands burned. And now he's approving funds for multifamily housing in Los Angeles. Surprise, surprise, surprise. So that is happening. And you've seen this in Connecticut and elsewhere. And in fact, Governor Lamont just vetoed the bill to allow more of this to happen. And he's under fire in Connecticut. So fascinating stuff going on, guys. It's all out there. You can see it all. We'll dig into some more of these stories, but I see that David Cross is in the green room, so I'm going to bring him in since we have him here. We said 10:30, but it looks like he's ready to go. So here we go.
Hey.
Hey, I hope I didn't catch you in your underwear or something.
No, listen, I got business on top of business on bottom.
All right, man. So, hey, great hit on Caravan to Midnight last night. I listened to it all.
It was interesting. I was kind of expecting him to be, to be talking a lot more, and he just really, let me have the floor and just kind of just talk about what was happening. And, hopefully what's going to happen out of that is that there's going to be just thousands of people that write to the RNC, to the council at RNC and just say, what happened was a travesty. You guys, you have to fix it.
Well, you can find that interview, by the way, on his Rumble, Caravan to Midnight. You can find that, John B. Wells. But I wanted to talk to you about markets. So what is going on? Where do you see things right now? Give us a snapshot of the financial markets.
All right. So before I do that, I've got to put my disclaimers out there, unlike Brent Frost ever did. All right. So we're going to be discussing financial markets and investments. I'm not going to be making any specific recommendations to you as an individual for anybody who's watching, because I don't know you. My comments are provided as a courtesy and for educational purposes only. Please consult your financial advisor or legal professional before making any investments regarding your situation. My company, U.S. Asset Management, is a member of Advisory Services Network. So we got the disclaimer out of the way. But so where
First Liberty wasn't telling people that, David, before?
Not once. not once. So the main question is like, where's the market right now? And what's interesting is when I went to happy hour at the 1818 Club across the street, last night. And as I was going up the elevator, I saw another couple that had looked like an invitation to an investment seminar that one of my friends is hosting. And I said, hey, look at that. It's amazing. Stock market's, at all-time high right now. And I said, God bless President Trump. And so just trying to screw with people sometimes. And they were like, oh, they rolled their eyes, he's a terrible person. He's a dictator, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, well, at least he's running the country. He's not doing it with his wife's auto pen. So
exactly. Or Susan Rice's auto pen or somebody.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So where are things right now? The market had a really nasty sell-off back in April. I mean, it was pretty gross. We were fortunate that we didn't. Our clients don't tend to panic or anything like that. And we've seen things come right back up to all-time highs. Things are going well right now, but I think people have to be realistic also and just understand that some of what's happening out there, the market's going to all-time highs, metals going to all-time highs, bonds doing what they're doing. It's really a function of we still have a big money printing machine, up in Washington, D.C., and that money has to go someplace. And there are people that are out there that own a lot of businesses. The vast majority of stock market wealth right now, I think 90% of stock market wealth is concentrated in the top 10% of the population. Might be, I think it's a lot less than 10%. But that money has to go somewhere. I mean, you can only buy so many houses or boats or planes or whatever, and you're gonna put that money someplace, and it's making its way into the markets and into metals and things like that. So, I mean, I'm not.
You've called that, David. I mean, you've been saying that for a couple of years that probably is what's going to happen. So you've been pretty spot on about that.
Oh, that's right. We did that bit where we talked about, I think, like what was going on. I want to say like in Venezuela or something like that. And I was like, look, the Venezuela stock market's gone from like 50,000 to like 2.5 million. Yeah. And it's not because they invented a new iPhone. It's because they just printed gobs of money.
Yes.
And we're on the same trajectory. So until that slows down, then things are, we probably stay on that same trajectory. What's really interesting is that interest rates right now on the 10-year, I think, are like around 4.25% or so. And interest rates, I mean, you're a veteran of the markets. Interest rates are a function of, it's just a simple math equation. Inflation plus growth equals, roughly the 10-year rate. And, we live in a world where like Jay Powell and these other guys, they're content with 2% growth in the economy and 2% inflation. And I think what President Trump is trying to push for is idealistically, he'd like to get 4% growth and 0% inflation. I don't know if that's going to happen or not, particularly with the big, beautiful bill, because it's going to be increasing the size of the deficit and the amount of borrowing that's going to happen. Hopefully that's going to be offset by growth in the economy and having more.
I was going to say, I think President wants to grow our way out.
That's really the only way that we can do it. I mean, that's the most prudent way to do it. So, it's just like when somebody out there, when you buy a house, your mortgage never goes up. If you don't refinance it, your mortgage stays the same, and gradually goes down over time. And, and if you get some appreciation of the value of your house, that's where the net worth, that spread is the net worth improvement. And a lot of that is just replacement value because of inflation. So that's kind of what's going on.
What about the Fed? You mentioned that. I'm hearing rumors, Powell's going to resign. I mean, have you seen anything significant on that?
I've heard the same thing. It's a pretty contentious relationship right now. The president frequently refers to Powell as retarded and things like that. So it wouldn't surprise me if Powell just said, I'm kind of tired of this. I've been doing this for a long time. He's got plenty of money in the bank, plenty of net worth. He could go sit on an island somewhere and and sip cocktails for the rest of his life if he wanted to, and he's not going to miss anything. But
and he's got that money because he was trading his PA or his personal account on inside information. Just
come on, they don't do that. They don't do that.
So you think there's a chance he might resign? I mean, I've been waiting for like confirmation of this, but I haven't seen it anywhere. It's just kind of X rumors running around.
Yeah, I think he will. I mean, those rumors come from someplace. So yeah, I think it'll happen at some point. Like I said, he's probably tired of dealing with this. I mean, President Trump is the one that appointed him to that position, and President Trump has gone to Powell frequently and said, "I need for you to resign." And unfortunately, the president can't force that because even though it is federal and even though it's called the Federal Reserve, it is neither federal nor a reserve. So it's this quasi governmental institution. Yeah, it is a cabal. It's a monopoly of banks that are all put together to control interest rates. So don't think for a second that the Federal Reserve is part of the government, but they make appointments and recommendations as to who should be leading the organization, and and they allow the president to have input on hiring, but not on firing. So that's kind of where we're at.
There was a narrative that he was going to try to find a way in the legislation to actually fire Powell, but I guess that wasn't found. Maybe it's because it didn't happen,
Not yet. I mean, but I expect there's some creative people looking for ways to do that. So
yeah, What about interest rates? Well, first of all, if Powell resigns, I mean, the market Katie barred the door, right? Because rates are coming down. I mean, am I wrong on that?
I would think so. I mean, the biggest driver of interest rates in the economy is where mortgage rates are. Mortgage rates right now are roughly around 6.7%. They're coming down a little bit. They're still much higher than they were several years ago. But the lower that the mortgage rate goes, the more fuel you add to the American economy. So hopefully that we're going to see that. The other thing that's happening is blue collar wages are going up because you've got all these.
I saw that.
These repatriations, of people who've invaded the country, are being pushed out, and so we're going to see how that works out. I think what you're going to see is a lot of mid-sized and small companies are the ones that are the primary employers of those folks, and if they have to leave, they're going to have to replace them with other people. Those other people probably are the Gen Zers and and younger, and some of those folks have in the past have said, I'm not going to work for those wages, but if those companies raise the wages, then you're going to have incentive for people to come back to work. And when they come back to work, that's going to necessitate probably a rise in the cost of the goods sold for those companies. And if the revenue goes up at those companies, maybe we'll see the value of those companies going up generally. But when you look at like the mid cap index and the small cap index, there's a lot of industrial manufacturing companies and home building companies in there, so they would benefit from lower interest rates and what would be happening with employment. But it's probably going to take a couple of years for that to play itself out.
What about AI? I'm curious in your business. I was when I ended my Wall Street experience, I was on the bond trading side, and a lot of it went electronic, and that's one reason I left, because it just wasn't fun anymore. It was harder to make money, and it was just it wasn't the same. Are you seeing anything like that in your business, or are people gravitating toward advice?
We're still seeing quite a bit of growth in our business because the trust factor with a machine telling you what to do for a lot of people is fairly low. They want that human connection, because I think a lot of people want to know that there's somebody who empathizes with their situation, because our primary job is not go out and beat the stock market. It's wonderful if we do. Okay. Our primary job is to listen to the problems and the issues, the financial concerns that people have got, and help them solve for not running out of money in the future. That's our primary responsibility, is to help try and manage that equation and help solve that equation.
Well, there's an old saying that the first thing in making money is not to lose money, right? I mean,
yeah, that's what Warren Buffett says. Warren Buffett says, rule number 1 is don't lose money. Rule number 2 is don't forget rule number 1. So,
wow.
he's got some great little sayings like that. But but it is really kind of weird how there's so many investment advisors out there and so many professionals that really try to emulate Buffett, and they don't come close. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that he tries to find good quality companies that he can buy at fair prices. He's not the kind of person where he's saying, oh, I'm looking for this great company that's selling at a steal. Charlie Munger taught him a long time ago that just doesn't happen, at least not frequently enough to be repeated. So he said, find good companies with, with quality management that share your values and how to run companies, buy stock in them, and then leave it alone and only fire them or only sell the investment if management violates the principles that you stand behind.
That's a good point, because I had this discussion with another guy who had been he was writing a book on tech companies and the revolutions coming and why you needed to, what was so great about all this. And I just mentioned what you just said, that, management and a lot of these companies with ESG and all this stuff coming on, were not doing what was right for the companies. I think that has started to change, but you really do have to watch management changes. I mean, look what happened at Boeing. I mean, that's a great example. I mean, now it's probably a buy, but 5 years ago it wasn't, because management had destroyed the company and nobody knew it yet. So following those corporate values is really important. Am I right?
Yeah, I mean, that was actually one of my concerns several years ago, is that Boeing had tried to save $14 million on software expenses, and the software as it specifically related to, I believe, to the autopilot function. Mm-hmm. And when they outsourced it, the people who were working on it weren't really familiar with all the intricacies, and that's what caused several of these crashes. But to save $14 million, it nearly drove the company insolvent. And fortunately, they were able to arrest that and fix it. And they seem like they're back on on a good road, and I'd be willing to bet they probably don't make that mistake ever again.
And are you seeing companies remove this ESG thing faster, or are you still seeing that work its way through some corporate environments?
It's still out there, and it's still important to to some people, because I mean, you've got ideologues that work at some of these companies or own some of these companies, so it's not going to go away for some of them. Mm-hmm. But every investment report that we pull up on the services that we use, for the longest time they had, ESG scores, for the company was one of the most prominent things on there. And, the young guy that I work with, he used to make fun of that and say, the higher the ESG score, the less interested I am in looking at the company.
The bigger the short. What about tariffs? A lot of tariff news coming our way. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, so the tariffs are really interesting. I'm stunned by the amount of money that has come in. The president yesterday wrote a letter to Brazil saying, mm-hmm. Hey, we're gonna put a 50% tariff on everything that's coming in from the country. They import a lot of copper into the country, as well as other commodity type things like that. And so far this year, I believe I think the U.S. government has brought in like $121 billion of tariffs. I could be wrong. It might be 200. I got to double check it and see what the number is. But the curious thing that's happening is we're not seeing those tariffs being reflected in higher inflation, at least not yet. So we're going to see what's going to happen there. But we're 7 months into the year, and that's a fairly substantial number. That's enough money to come in to really, I think, move the needle.
I was talking to Ed Dowd recently, and he said that due to the entire increase in the economy over the last 5 years was fake, because it was all driven by government supplied money for immigration, illegals coming in by the millions and providing for them for housing, healthcare, food, everything. And now that's being reversed. And he said there is a big, bubble, especially in the multifamily housing market, which has been overbuilt, and there's a longer lag than the residential housing, and that is going to hit at some point. Do you see that at all? Because we're seeing a lot of, like, California just approved more money for multifamily housing in LA after they burned it all. Any thoughts on that?
Listen, I really feel I don't like the massive amount of multifamily that's going up, even around us. Again, mm-hmm. the young guy that I work with, he comes up with some of the most colorful language, but when he looks at them and the way that they're designed, he refers to it as goy slop. And I was like, what is that? And he's like, it all just looks terrible. It's all the same thing. And it's like a bunch of Lego bricks that have been popped up, and they all look terrible. Yeah. And to me, when I see the cost of what it costs to live in a house versus what it costs to rent a place, if you're going to be living in the same place for 3-4 years or longer, you probably should buy a home, if you don't know, and you know, maybe you're going to be transient, maybe you're here for a little while, then an apartment I think is the right thing. But you know, I don't like seeing the amount of cluster building that's happening, particularly in my, you know, in Georgia. It's happening everywhere, and a lot of that is really pushing it's pushing the Democrat narrative, you know, in Georgia, because you've got a lot of people coming from other places that are coming to Georgia because of the climate and the jobs and the things like that, and it's a little bit more affordable. And the Democrats have got a really well-oiled machine to reach out and touch those people before the Republicans ever even get wind of it. The Republicans like to talk to people that live in houses and neighborhoods, and in Georgia, the growth is in multifamily, and so that's going to be a challenge for the, you know, for the Republican Party. But from an economic standpoint, you know, I'm not a fan of it, and
well, it's being pushed by the UN, right? I mean, this is an agenda, I think.
Well, when you look at it, it ends up being like tenement housing, you know, after a while, you know, where you're basically, you know, you're working for the man, and
totally.
Hopefully we're going to get to a place here where we get some reforms, some real reforms that happen in the economy, where it makes it so that if somebody has a blue collar job, they can have a wife that, you know, that stays at home and takes care of their 3 or 4 or 5 kids, you know,
exactly.
and you know, and a lot of people feel like that is yesteryear and we'll never see that again. But, you know, my hope, and it is a hope right now, is that we're going to see reform back to core family values and that kind of thing. And I think it ends up being ultimately good for the country and good economically too.
Well, you brought that up. Gen Z, are you getting people in that generation coming to you for advice, or millennials for that matter? I mean, because millennials are what, mid-30s now? I mean, so they are starting to have money, but what about these younger generations? What are you seeing on the ground?
Not a lot, man. What's interesting is we're seeing the growth of Robinhood has really taken off. I think that stock is up to like $100 a share. I think it was like $20 or $30, you know, last year. And I'm not recommending it, but what I'm saying is that it's up there because they're getting a lot of new customers that are coming in. A lot of them tend to be, you know, younger customers. We don't have a lot of younger customers that come to us. Usually the kind of people that come to us are somebody who is typically like in their 50s. They've got an investment account here, a savings account there, a 401k someplace, and they feel like they've got like a bunch of little dangling participles that are out there where everything's not working towards one plan. And that's usually about the time that people are motivated to seek professional advice.
Got it. Well, let's talk. Well, one more thing on the economy. I heard a report last night on sports gambling and how horrific this is. Have you seen that in that equity space? I guess they're just printing money, but it's really dangerous and diabolical to the people who are getting addicted and really abused and harmed by this. Do you see that at all?
Yeah, I don't see it. I mean, fortunately, I don't see that. I mean, the biggest thing that I've seen in the last 10 years, the most tragic thing I've seen is people, you know, is the younger generation, people in the younger generation, you know, dying from drug overdoses, from recreational drug use. That to me is absolutely awful. And I've seen that firsthand, you know, with friends and, you know, other folks that have been affected by it. I haven't seen really anything going on with sports gambling. But
I was just curious if that's kind of like a, not competition, but a factor you have to deal with, but I guess not. Okay.
It has not been so far, no.
What about the Georgia GOP? Let's switch to that. How do we fix my home state, the great state of Georgia?
Listen, we clearly had a rigged election that happened on June 7th. There's haters that are out there that are saying, you just need to hug it out and, you know, and get to work. And I'm like, you know, I'm not going to hug it out with people that cheat and lie and steal, you know, to rig an election so that they can maintain power. I had a 22-point plan to try and resuscitate and grow the Republican Party. My opponent never once articulated any type of plan other than just reelect him. And it's really interesting seeing what happened in that election, because there's a family that's down in Southwest Georgia, or southwest of Atlanta, the Frost family. And I believe that their son conspired to rig this thing because they needed access to politicians and money. And again, that's my opinion. That's where my intuition is leading me right now. We haven't, we will see more facts come out, but when you look at motive and opportunity, it's all there. The motive was to maintain that direct line to big donors and politicians. There's a psychological phenomenon that's called social proof. And if one of your super wealthy friends sees, me and you sitting down talking, about investments, and then you get up and go over and talk with him and say, oh yeah, I've been working with Dave for a while. They tend not to do the homework. They tend to take you at your word, whether they talk with you or if they just happen to see you. And that happens a lot. Human beings, unfortunately, are lazy that way. And I think that they really tend to exploit that. And they were looking to exploit that, because I had said early on that I thought that they were a cancer on the Georgia Republican Party. Turns out I was right. And they wielded their checkbook as if it was a billy club. They beat people over the head with it to beat them into submission. That if you didn't do what they wanted, they wouldn't help support you. They wouldn't help your county. They wouldn't help your candidacy, whatever it was. And we don't need to operate that way. I had said early on that I was going to, force a conversation with them to make it so that they got along with all the other kids on the playground. Otherwise, I was going to tell them to pack it up, because I'll go find 100 other checkbooks just as big as theirs to help support the Republican cause. So right now we have an appeal in. The Georgia GOP said, nope, we're not listening to your appeal. And so we're trying to get the RNC to do something about it. And they told me a week ago yesterday, that they were looking into it. I haven't heard anything yet, but I know for a fact that Michael Whatley and the council at the RNC are receiving hundreds, if not thousands, of emails and letters, saying, hey, this thing was clearly rigged and you need to nullify it. And I think they should, because the RNC is the main franchise for the state Republican parties, and they owe it to themselves and to other Republicans across the country to maintain the value of the franchise.
So how do people do that? Now, we've got a big audience all over the country, but a lot of them in Georgia, a lot of Republicans. So how would people email Mr. Whatley?
The best thing to do is you can send an email to mwhatley, MWHATLEY, mwhatley at rnc.com, or you can send one to counsel, COUNSEL, at GOP.com. You can put those out there, send them a message and just say, hey, I think this thing was rigged. I think you guys need to really look into and investigate it and overturn that election, and have new elections at the county level on paper ballots, where the ballots are counted in public in front of everybody. And I think if that happens, I think I would slaughter Josh McCoon. I think I would absolutely slaughter him, because everywhere we went, I was just annihilating him.
Well, you had a plan. I mean, Josh doesn't have a plan. I heard you say that last night. I mean, you had a plan to fix the finances, to get minorities involved in the GOP, to really re-energize the party, to motivate people for 26, to win across the state. And now I'm worried about 2026, because I don't think Josh even cares.
No.
I think it's all about his own personal power. So that's critical for the movement, is Georgia.
Yeah, it's for, I think, for him and some other folks that are licking his boots, so to speak. And I know that there's people out there that hate that, but call it the way it is. They value title, position, and power, or perceived power. And the problem is that when you do that, you end up driving away the grassroots, and you have an organization that just gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And the mantra for that management style is keep it small and rule it all. Well, if you do that, you eventually get to the point with attrition where you just got one person that's ruling everything, and you're the king of nothing. And we don't need that. We need broad-based participation. And my greatest concern is that grassroots people across the state are just saying, you know what, I'm going to vote. I'm going to vote Republican. I'm going to vote for the conservative candidate, but don't ask me to lift a finger for people that are liars and manipulators. And I hate to say that, but that's the perception right now about what happened at that convention. For any honest person that was there, they're saying that, and I put out a survey to ask as many people as I could that went to it. I sent my survey to several thousand people. I had 256 people responded that said, I went to it, and 88% of those 250 some odd people said that it was rigged and not fair. That's a pretty large sample size of the people that went to the convention. That's over 10% of the people that went there. But what's really troubling is that nearly 88% is nearly everybody. 88% of the people said it wasn't fair. And that includes people who didn't vote for me. I had people that reached out to me and said, David, I didn't vote for you, but my side cheated and it's not right. And we got to do something about it.
Well, music to my ears, but we got to keep pressing. There's no other option. Tell us about your business. How do people get in contact with you, et cetera? How do you operate? All that.
Really, really simple. So we are a fee-based investment advisor, meaning that we charge a fee as a percentage of the assets. We don't get paid commissions to manage clients' accounts. Mm-hmm. We have different investment models, whether it's growth in income, or income oriented, or whether it's aggressive growth. So we will adjust our models to what your needs are and what your financial plan dictates. And the easiest way to reach out to us is just look at us-am.com is just the easiest way to find me. And there's a calendar link on there. If you want to have a discussion, happy to do it. It's not going to cost anything. There's no cost or obligation. We'll find out, have a conversation to just find out if you're a good fit for us and if we're a good fit for you.
Outstanding. David, thank you very much. We'll have you back down the road. Appreciate it. Good luck in Georgia. Stay on it. All right. Take care.
The bird flu is circulating. We're getting more and more press, more fear mongering, more warnings about this. First, let's start with that. What say you on?
Well, what I say is it specifically is not circulating. It's in animals. There's one human, maybe two transmissions, no human-to-human transmission. And stand by, everybody. If there is some sort of sudden human-to-human transmission, you should immediately be suspicious that gain of function was involved with that. Just the fact that they're taking an animal virus and going nuts on it in the press and talking about it all the time, that to me leads me to believe that they have concerns that somebody is doing something with that virus, because this would not happen naturally, in my opinion.
Our world is changing rapidly. Many crucial systems we depend upon are collapsing. And the most important system that is failing is the food supply.
Mr. President, this Council is more than aware of the multiple challenges and threats the world is facing today. But the threat of famine, people starving slowly to death, must be a red line.
These food prices are going to keep going up and up, and they're going to keep feeding excuse after excuse, narrative after narrative.
Yeah,
you're going to have to get off that treadmill and start getting more autonomous with your own food growing.
You want to make sure that you can eat, because frankly, food is the biggest issue as we are going through these transitions.
But amidst the chaos, there is a path to resilience. Marjorie Wildcraft is the female leader of the survival and preparedness movement. Marjorie has taught millions of people how to grow an abundance of food in a grid-down situation, even if you have no experience, are older, or out of shape.
I've spent decades finding the fastest, easiest, and funnest ways for the average person to be able to grow a lot of food. I've created a step-by-step process that's so simple that even kids to elders have been using it in order to grow a lot of their own food. And you can too, even if you have no experience, you're older, or you're out of shape.
Growing your own food is like printing your own money. Get started today.
Welcome back to the SCIF. I just want to highlight Nucleo Boost. This is our micronutrition packet. It's the powder. You can put it in smoothie or yogurt every day. If you go to cdmnutrition.com, you can see everything about that. Please check it out. These are the capsules. Brendy Wells sent me these. These were developed by John B. Wells and Dr. John Waterman. It's the best micronutrition out there. It has everything you need, and it has the bioallo to get it into your cells. So there is the subscription option. It's cheaper if you go to cdmnutrition.com, but the micronutrition capsules were done because some people would rather have that than the powder. It's all there. Check it out and be healthy. That's our big thing. And also, if you go to twc.health/CDM, let me bring that up. You can see one of our best sponsors, the Wellness Company. I'm about to travel to Armenia with our team, and we are going to bring the emergency medical kits with us because you never know what you're going to need. Spend some time on the Wellness Company site, twc.health. Make sure you put the /CDM in there. Use promo code CDM. You get 10% off. But play around with it. Look at the subscriptions. Look at the nutraceuticals, the pharmaceuticals, the doctor visits, the emergency medical kits, the contagion kit with the nebulizer, the first aid kits, the supplements like the ultimate spike detox if you have somebody who's been vaccinated and you're worried about their blood. We get this a lot. How do my daughter got vaccinated 8 times. How do I help her clean her blood? This is what you do with the nattokinase. You heard Dr. Tapper talk about that yesterday. So you can find the ultimate spike detox on the Wellness Company, twc.health/CDM. And we talked about MyPillow, but just support all our sponsors. It really helps us in creating this channel, this network, and continuing to bring you the best. I mean, we're spending a lot of money to go to Armenia with our team and really do some real reporting on the Christian persecution there and the origins of Christianity. I mean, this is the kind of reporting you're not going to get from anywhere else. So also our no ad subscriptions. If you go to any cdm.press site, top right corner, subscribe with no ads, it gives you 13 sites of news all over the world with no advertisements. And you can scroll around, find out what's going on across the planet, and no pop-up ads on your phone. Everybody loves it. It's $10 a month or $100 a year. Pay the $100, get it out of the way, and you can really learn a lot without annoying advertising. So let's go on and finish some of our stories. We talked about Newsom multifamily housing in LA. This is big. In Florida, they're doing it. Let me bring this back up, actually. They're changing the zoning in Florida, in California, and others. They're taking zoning away from the towns. It's happening in Connecticut. They're trying to destroy the Connecticut towns. So you need to get active on this in your local area. By the way, we had Steve Jarvis on yesterday on the food, the attack with the weather geoengineering on the food. So cdmfood.com is where you can learn all about Marjorie Wildcraft and all her programs. Everybody needs to start growing food, and the Grow Network with Marjorie is where you do it and get started. She has a lot of free content. Go on there, spend some time at cdmfood.com, and you will learn all about that. And then look at getting her subscriptions to stay plugged into how to grow a lot of food, because it's like she said, it's like printing money. The next story I wanted to talk about is seed oils. We have a great article up there right now on cdm.press, from machinery lubricant to healthy food, how ultra-processed seed oils became a kitchen staple. Get this out of your food. It's everywhere. Get it out. Check every ingredient. If there's sunflower, canola is the worst. It's actually oil for an engine. It's vegetable oil. Get all of this out of there. Olive oil is fine. Beef fat is fine. Tallow, I think they call it. I think it's Shake Shack that started frying all their stuff in beef tallow instead of these oils. It's dangerous. What happens, as John says in the ad, this toxin destroys your body at the cellular level. Microbiology creates inflammation, and they have to put weight on you because they got to store all these toxins somewhere, and that's where all these bellies are come from. So check this article out on cdm.press. It's with our cooperation with Children's Health Defense. Just a great piece. Please learn and tell your children, stop buying chips with seed oil in it. My gosh, I mean, you're young. You don't have to get on this train where when you turn 50, you got a belly because you got all these toxins in your body. Start now. Teach them. So the next article I want to talk about is another Iran attack coming. The deep state is all happy because Israel wants to bomb Iran again. Trump has even said he may do it again. We're going to stay on this, but the article's up on the site. You can find it. You can read. You can stay informed. These wars need to end. We're one of the few voices out there. There are others, but we are a strong voice against these forever wars because we care about our kids. What a concept. And then lastly, the story I want to deal with today is Trump is weighing takeover by the federal government of Washington, D.C. This has to happen. D.C. is a uncontrolled deep state pit like the City of London and like the Vatican, like Rob Cunningham has told us many times from the Cool Show. So all of that is a lot. I'm going to take another break, and then we'll come back with Scott Schara and what happened with his daughter and how he really fought back. And I'm proud of Scott and proud of our relationship with him. We'll be right back.
Watching my friends gain more and more weight. And then eventually, I got to tell you, this is a little dark, but bad diet literally killed my whole crew.
Wow.
Diabetes, a stroke. I mean, all kinds of stuff. It's like you had a stroke. You're not even 50 years old. You guys got to quit eating this stuff. Your body knows what's what. You are not conscious of this. But that's why people will go to the refrigerator and they'll grab this and that and the other and put together this outrageously elaborate combination of foods. Your body's trying to reach balance. Unbeknownst to us, our bodies are always trying to reach homeostasis. You can't eat all of this stuff and expect to live a long time. And one thing led to another, and I went, forget this. We're going to make our own product. So we partnered with one of the world's top 3 biochemists where nutrition-specific study is concerned. I said, all I want is the best nutritional and immune support product in the world. So we mixed it in yogurt. It's a powder. I got a bag of it here. I keep one on the console all the time, just so I can show people.
Yeah.
And it's a powder. Now, this is not candy. This is hardcore nutrition. And sugar is an enemy. And most people do not know that the reason these bellies are showing up on people all over the place, your body makes fat to store the toxins it can't get rid of. So it just puts them over here. But I can tell you this. You take this for 30 days and then lay off of it for 2 or 3 days, and you'll go, good grief, give me some more. Skin, nails, hair growing back. Cut yourself and it heals in half the time.
I'm David Cross, and you may know me from my election integrity work, but I also own U.S. asset management and investment advisory practice. I've been an advisor for nearly 30 years, and one of the questions I get asked most frequently is, do I have enough money relative to other people my age? And while that's an interesting question, it's also the wrong question. The right question is do you have enough money to sustain your lifestyle for the rest of your life? This is a question you should know the answer to. This is what we do. Check us out at us-am.com and look for our big proud American Eagle logo.
We have put slogging over Africa. Foot, slogging over Africa. Boot, moving up and down again. There's no discharge in the war. 7, 6, 11.
Welcome back to the SCIF. That's Kipling's famous poem about, I believe it's about World War I. But if you've never listened to it, it's fantastic. I had to listen to that over and over and over in a cell during survival training, so I have fond memories of that blasting into my ear. I mentioned Iran. I just want to highlight real quick my book, Paying the Price, The Untold Story of the Iranian Resistance. You can get it anywhere books are sold. If you want to know how to take down the regime without having a war and give the control of the country back to Iran, check this book out. There's a lot of press and uninformed, opinions about the MEK out there. I've spent a lot of time with them, and I can tell you they're not communists. They're not kooks. They're a paramilitary military force that's highly effective. The regime has executed 130,000 of them, so you can see how the regime is scared of them. These are the people that can take down Iran, the regime in Iran from the inside. So check out Paying the Price, The Untold Story of the Iranian resistance. Now, I sat down with Scott Schara, who I met Scott because I was dealing with the death of my father, who was euthanized in the hospital, and Mary Holland of Children's Health Defense was kind enough to introduce me to Scott because he was having some of the same issues, and I have developed a relationship with him and just did this interview after the trial he ended recently. So
to celebrate our newest launch, Rev 7, I'm bringing you an amazing introductory offer, plus an exclusive overstock sale that you're not going to want to miss. Rev 7 is our premium energy drink that tastes great and gives you energy all day with no jitters and no crashes. That's because there's no sugar and no caffeine. I'm so sure you're going to love Rev 7 that for a limited time you can try our 3-pack absolutely free. Or check out our Percale bed sheets. I can't believe I'm even going to say this. Every color, every style, every size, only $29.88. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save 20% on our Rev 7 12-packs or try our introductory 3-pack absolutely free. And our Percale bed sheets, all sizes only $29.88, even the queens and kings. Inventory is extremely limited, so order now.
Well, in the case of hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin, these are two medications that have been FDA approved for use in humans for decades. They are very, very inexpensive. Interestingly, available over the counter in almost every other country other than the US and Canada. You can just walk into a pharmacy and buy them like we buy Tylenol in much of the world because they're that safe. And we've known for decades that ivermectin has very strong antiviral properties. It has anti-inflammatory properties, and both ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine are what we call zinc ionophores. They help to move zinc from the bloodstream into the cell, which is where it needs to be in order to fight off a virus. So lots of application for these, and we have every reason to believe that those drugs also will likely have some efficacy against H5N1 or a number of other respiratory viruses that we may meet down the road.
If you haven't noticed, gold has reached a new high, all-time highs actually, and keeps going up every day. Why is that? It's because precious metals are a long-time historical store of value. And if you own a portfolio and you have assets in the fiat currencies, i.e. stocks, bonds, cash, or whatever, you're vulnerable to hyperinflation, which is coming as our debt explodes another trillion every 90 days. It's really scary. So how do you protect yourself? Go to Advisor Metals. If you look on any of our CDM.press sites, about halfway down, there's an ad for Advisor Metals. Click on it, fill out the form for your contact info, and Ira Bishotsky will contact you and talk to you. It's an easy conversation. There's no sales pitch. He's completely verified by us. He has a regulatory background we've checked into. We've checked with his bankers. We've checked with his IRA custodians for metals, and we can highly recommend Advisor Metals and Ira. So go to Advisor Metals. If you call them directly, tell them we sent you at CDM, and he'll definitely take care of you. But protect your portfolio because you really need to. It's coming. Thank you. Welcome back to the SCIF. We're going to close out the show. I've had a lot of comments, anger, disbelief over the Ukrainian Orthodox Church persecution. And people are saying, oh, that's been debunked, or that's, a lie, or blah, blah, blah. So it's not a lie, and it hasn't been debunked. It's actually happening. And unfortunately for people who are all pro-Ukraine, seeing that they've been told a lie for years is hard to handle. So we're going to play this interview with the attorney for the Ukrainian Orthodox Church, Bob Amsterdam, which we did a couple days ago. We've interviewed him many times about what's going on there, but I'm going to play this and just, continue to tell the truth on this story. So here we go. We're honored to be back with Robert Amsterdam. He is the attorney in London for the Ukrainian Orthodox Church. Robert, thank you for taking some of your time again. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much for having us.
So I contacted you because I saw some video images of a infiltration, I should say, into one of the Ukrainian Orthodox Church facilities where they pretended to be invalids. And then once they got in, they attacked and beat the priests. And this was obviously some kind of quasi-government sponsored entity that did this. What say you?
Yeah, it's actually the government.
Mm-hmm.
As I've said before on your show, and only your show and that of Tucker Carlson, because nobody in the press is covering this, because it turns out President Zelensky's a thug.
Mm-hmm.
And what he's doing is he's trying to replace a 1,000-year-old church with a 5-year-old church that's backed by his nationalist neo-Nazis in the western part of Ukraine. And shockingly, there are no holds barred. They use guys who look like they should be at the front, many of them with swastikas on their arms. They break into churches. They beat up parishioners. They steal the physical churches, over 1,500 stolen. They turn the churches into museums or relics. It's absolutely out of a terrible page of history.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned this is a nationalist element that I think is controlling Zelensky, and we did some reporting last week that he can't really, I guess, make any progress in bringing peace to Ukraine because the nationalists would take him out. Do you know anything about that, or I mean,
well,
not your focus, but
look, I don't know whether it's just the nationalists, whether it's also the fact that he's surrounded with a bunch of people, maybe including himself, who are wildly corrupt. I don't know what's stopping anything meaningful in terms of these discussions. As you know, Todd, we are solely dedicated to trying to save this church. And we're obviously not doing a great job since they've literally stripped the citizenship away from the leader of the church, and they're breaking into these institutions day by day, and you know, there's nothing. There appears to be nothing the West wants to do other than fund the killing, and the fact that guys that appear to be of military age are deployed against Christians rather than Russians is, I mean, it just blows my mind. And Western reporters don't want to report on it because a lot of them have TV and movie deals that make Zelensky look like a demigod, and they just don't want to tell the truth. And then you get journalists like who write for the Washington Post who are so far up the we'll leave it at that. They're so close to the Ukrainian government that they just essentially lie every time they write a report. The reality on the ground in Ukraine is incredibly different than what you actually read in Western newspapers.
Well, I believe it's Metropolitan, and I may butcher this name, Anufri, who had his citizenship removed, and it was due to, in the past, he, I guess, had Russian citizenship, but he denounced it and basically wanted to rebuild the church inside Ukraine. And that's known by the government, but they took his citizenship away anyway.
Well, let's be really clear.
Yeah.
The Russian citizenship is a fallacy. He was born in Ukraine in 1944. In the 70s, he was part of the Soviet Union, as Ukraine was.
Right.
There were only 3 seminaries. They were all in the Soviet Union. He went to a seminary in the Soviet Union. He then came back to Ukraine. I will tell you, when the war started, he didn't flee. He went right back to Kiev, blessed the troops, expressed his solidarity with the Ukrainian people. We're just releasing a video, by the way, on SaveTheUOC.com. It'll be out tomorrow, that sets all of this out. The truth of the matter is, Zelensky, who was perhaps the #1 Russian-speaking comic, he has many more current ties to Russia than Metropolitan Onufri. Nobody's stripping him of his citizenship.
Yeah. This seems like, to me, an attack on Christianity, which I think you've mentioned before. I mean, it's being run by the U.S. government, which is really disturbing.
Well, I tell you, this has been set in place since 2014. and it's ongoing. There are, I think, factions within the U.S. government that are continuing this hatred towards this church, because the other church, the OCU, is a construct of the State Department, as I've said on your show before. So there's a feeling of ownership, I think, concerning the religious issue, because the United States and a guy named Zelensky, who runs their religious studies, religious control group inside the presidential administration, they believe in the securitization of religion. In other words, it's not about praying. It's about making religion a part of your foreign policy and controlling your people's faith. Very scary thing. It's very Soviet, and it's absolutely the idea of this guy Zelensky, who's actually written a paper on that.
Your government doesn't care about you. That's why you need a medical emergency kit. It contains life-saving medications like ivermectin, Z-Pak, and antibiotics. Stock them before they block them.
If you haven't noticed, gold has reached a new high, all-time highs actually, and keeps going up every day. Why is that? It's because precious metals are a long-time historical store of value. And if you own a portfolio and you have assets in the fiat currencies, i.e. stocks, bonds, cash, or whatever, you're vulnerable to hyperinflation, which is coming as our debt explodes another trillion every 90 days. It's really scary. So how do you protect yourself? Go to Advisor Metals. If you look on any of our cdm.press sites, about halfway down, there's an ad for Advisor Metals. Click on it, fill out the form for your contact info, and Ira Bishotsky will contact you and talk to you. It's an easy conversation. There's no sales pitch. He's completely verified by us. He has a regulatory background we've checked into. We've checked with his bankers. We've checked with his IRA custodians for metals, and we can highly recommend Advisor Metals and IRA. So go to Advisor Metals. If you call them directly, tell them we sent you at CDM, and he'll definitely take care of you. But protect your portfolio because you really need to. It's coming. Thank you.
And Zelensky, who Zelensky has put in charge of religion, has also written a notoriously anti-Semitic book on Zionism from the 1980s. This is the guy that Zelensky has chosen to destroy the church.
Wow. So what else is going on the ground that you're seeing that is disturbing, or things you want people to know about?
Priests being taken to the front. As you know, people in Ukraine now are being rounded up and thrown into vans and finding themselves driven to the front in sort of a chain gang type of approach. And amongst those are political opponents and priests. So all of this terrible stuff you hear about Russia is happening in Ukraine. You just can change the language from the FSB to the SBU. And, you know, when we have criminal charges filed, as we have against many priests and many religious figures, the charges all come from the old Soviet criminal textbooks involving sort of mental or psychological crimes. It's really quite frightening to see how the Ukrainians have essentially stolen some of the worst ideas of Russian criminal practice or Soviet criminal practice and used it against their own people.
Well, they were trained that way, obviously. And it's very similar to what's going on in China with the Chinese Communist Party. They have a Christian church, which is state-sponsored, which, you know, controls the message and all of that. That's essentially what Ukraine is doing, right?
Well, through the OCU, that's right. And in fact, rather than some of the older saints that are put in icons, they actually have icons relating to the Maidan revolution. I mean, one of my lawyers was just in Ukraine. As you know, I can't travel there because they've opened up a bogus criminal investigation against me. So, you know, he was reporting to us about just the continuing outrageous situation. He met with the lawyers for a metropolitan who is gravely ill, kept in horrific conditions in jail, and this religious leader's crime was to complain to his parish about a roadblock that had been set up to stop people from coming to a religious event. And they've charged this poor man with spying. I mean, really, you could not make this up.
Well, I've asked you this before, but are you getting any relief from the Trump administration at all on this issue?
Well, as you know, then Senator Vance is the only person with courage at the time to speak out on behalf of the church. So we've never asked for any interference in terms of funding or anything else. All we've ever asked for is people to call the Ukrainians to stop this witch hunt, this horrific crime against humanity that's going on against Christians. And I would say this: I think the Trump administration has people in charge that at least listen. As you may have seen, one or two congressmen have deplored this attack on the church publicly.
Yes.
Recently, I think Congressperson Luna has made a statement, but it just shocks me how quiet legislators are with respect to an attack on Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Well, I think Luna's Jewish as well, so that's very interesting. At least she's standing up for what is right. Anything else you want to get out?
No, I mean, it's just an unparalleled tragedy, and you just see nothing of it in the press.
Yeah.
I mean, as you know, His Holiness the Pope spoke out against it. The Church of England spoke out against it, but we've just given such a free pass to Zelensky. He's got so much impunity that it's just completely outrageous.
Robert, thank you for your time. Really appreciate you carving a little bit out for us, and we'll have you back as things develop.
Thank you so much for having us.
Take care.
All the best. Bye.
Hope you enjoyed that interview on the SCIF. Hope you enjoyed the episode today. A lot coming. Tomorrow we'll have another bang-up episode. Join us Monday through Friday, 10 to noon Eastern. Wasn't supposed to happen. So we'll see you tomorrow at 10. We'll have a bang-up show. Please check us on podcast. Put cdm.press in your daily scan. If you haven't signed up for our no-ad subscriptions, please do it. Do the annual, get it out of the way. It's $100. You get access to all of our sites. You sign in. You can go around the entire CDM network with no ads popping up. People love it. We get a lot of good response on that. It's one of our main revenue drivers, so we can fund all this research we do. As you can see, we work really hard, literally all night long with our team all over the world to bring you what you need to know. So please support free media. It's a legacy you can leave to your children. Think of it that way. If you want to leave something to your grandchildren, leave them free media. Don't leave them tickets to the golf course. Leave them free media where they can have a chance at the kind of life that you led. So until then, we'll see you tomorrow at 10 o'clock Eastern. Thanks for joining us today.